that was a race I think a lot of us were anticipating, okay, Acura's going to pick up. But it picked up a lot more than people anticipated. We had the safety car, which a lot of folks say you can't bank on it. I feel with these Peloton-style races, you can bank on it. You had a group of 4 drivers all riding together because they all had issues. Their safety car neutralized the field. And despite all this, again, your winner, Antonio Felix da Costa, 3 in a row, 4 out of 5. Last person to do it was Antonio Felix da Costa. If he had not gotten disqualified back in Misano, he would be the points leader. Do you believe Antonio Felix da Costa is a legitimate contender for the championship in London?
Absolutely. I think if he runs a couple of flawless races in London, that's a double header as well, then he could definitely be a legitimate contender. I'm very excited to see what he does. If, the season kind of started off very rocky for him, obviously, and it is now the momentum has just built into something that seems like he's almost unstoppable. So I think if he can keep that momentum going, then he will have a very good weekend.
Now, speaking about a very good weekend, let's talk about somebody that had a miserable weekend. Nick Cassidy. Again, no points. This was a race he won last year. People were picking him as the favorite. He looked like he had the job done. And next thing you know, it's all gone. 12-point lead, and it's his teammate, tied with Pascal Wehrlein. You got a hot Antonio Felix da Costa. He did show up today for the media bullpen post-race, but he was not talking to anybody. He clearly, I'm starting to get a sense, this is starting to get a little bit in his head that the championship slipping away. Is the momentum working against him now?
Absolutely. I think this has been a really horrific weekend for him, and it really gets to you at times. Portland is so close to the finish line for these racers. We only have one race weekend left, and he really wasn't that far ahead to begin with, and I still don't think the possibility of potentially losing all of those points just really was something on his mind until the first race, until the first qualifying. And now it's a really scary possibility that he will no longer potentially be on top of the podium in London. That is something that we could definitely see happen again.
Talk about scary. Let's talk about the team principal for Jaguar. Your 2 drivers are going to be fighting each other for the championship, 12 points. Mitch Evans, he's angry. He's mad. He said if he didn't get the penalty, he would be the points leader as of yesterday. But that's not the case. It's still his teammate. He closed it in, but I got to ask, now that Jaguar has their 2 drivers fighting each other for the championship, I said in the beginning of the season they had to come off strong at the beginning of the season. They did that. They've been consistent. They've done that. Do you think Jaguar could close the deal and have at least one of their drivers win the championship?
Hopefully. I think if they don't, it's going to be a real disappointment from the team. They have worked so hard this season to be where they're at, to be on top. And again, I think the possibility of them really not having many points this weekend was something that didn't even cross their minds. And so they're definitely going to be wanting to look forward, look to London to see what they're able to do, because London, it's going to come down to the wire. And if they are not on top of their game, if they don't have the best performance at that track that weekend, then it's a real possibility that, they're not going to end up in the position they want to be.
So you got the Jaguar drivers, you got Antonio Felix da Costa, you now also have Pascal Wehrlein, his teammate, 12 points, tied with Mitch Evans. 4 drivers, 1 championship, 2 races. Where does Pascal Wehrlein stack up with the 2 Jaguars and his teammate?
That is a tough question. I think, again, it really depends on the last couple of races. I think if he has a couple of flawless races, then he could be, up there with the big dogs. He could really have a fantastic time and finish out way better than he was potentially expecting this season. But if he does not have a good drive in London, then it could be a real nightmare for him.
This race was almost a nightmare for him. The safety car managed to climb up, get some points. I gotta ask, this is gonna be, I think, one of the biggest championship battles we've seen in quite some time for Formula E. Considering the circumstances of this season where it looked like Nick Cassidy might run away with it. Now this weekend, if Nick Cassidy does not win this championship, well, this goes down as sort of like one of the biggest, I would say, chokes or like mid-season slumps that just next thing you know, you're out and people are going to remember you for all the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. I think, it was his season, especially here in Portland, again, we were all expecting him to win, so the fact that it's been just such a disaster of a weekend for him, I think it has everyone kind of doubting his abilities and kind of wondering if really he was as great as everyone was saying at the beginning of the season. And while that may or may not be true, we may never know, it is definitely something that everyone is kind of thinking in the back of their heads, I think.
I'm wondering if in the back of his head he's replaying London last year where he made contact with his teammate Dan Sebastian Buemi. Of course, they were running Jaguar powertrains. Championship over. Jake Dennis gets it. We talked to Jake Dennis and several drivers after the race. Here's what they all had to say following the race. Dennis, I know last year Portland was a much more positive experience overall this year, being the defending champion. As we approach London, how will you reflect on this season?
Well, it's been difficult. We haven't had the performances what we had last year as a team. Both cars have had a bit of a challenging one in the races this weekend. So, yeah, we just need to analyse and try and improve on for London. If I go bad in London, then it's a little worry because, yeah, we've qualified on the front row there for the past 3 years, and yeah, hopefully we can replicate our performances there over the past few seasons. But yeah, it's not been easy this year.
Now, of course, there's going to be a championship belt next race weekend. Of course, you're fast at London. How do you approach that weekend? Do you just focus on your own show, try to get the win, and does the role of the championship? Because we know some drivers, they don't want to play a spoiler if there's somebody else to contend for a championship.
I mean, yeah, our role is quite clear that we have to try and finish third in the constructors. That is literally our only goal. Whether I finish 5th or 4th or 8th in the teams, it really makes no difference to me. So, yeah, we have one goal, and that's to finish third in the constructors.
And one question we're going to ask all the drivers today. Next year, you're all going to Miami. Of course, Homestead Miami is a NASCAR track. You all getting used to Peloton racing. What are the thoughts of if someday Formula E said, hey, let's race the Oval in Miami? Would that be something you'd be down for, or is that too much?
I think that would be too much. We do need some braking zones to recharge the battery. So, yeah, I think it would be a bit of a disaster if we did that.
Thank you so much for your time. Pascal Wehrlein, this weekend in Portland, you now exit 12 points behind, tied for second place. How are you feeling about London?
Yeah, say for the championship, not a bad weekend. Yeah, still quite a lot of situations where it could have been better, but anyways, we take that. We lowered the gap to P1 in a championship, and yeah, now we go to London with the championship being very open. So that was the goal, and now we are looking forward to London.
Now, this was a pretty rough race with the wing issues, but then the safety car came out. When that kind of event occurs, when there's a safety car, is this just something where it just energizes the team to go out there and, okay, gives you motivation, or is it just still just, okay, stick to the plan, just try to be methodical about the race?
Well, the safety car you cannot influence, and you don't know before if it's happening or not, especially today, because it wasn't happening because of a crash, it was happening because of debris on track, which were there for quite many laps, to be honest. So I didn't feel like everyone was already aware, that there were a lot of debris on track. And actually it hit us a bit on the back foot because just 5 seconds before the safety car came out, I got passed, I think, by 2 cars, which put me then into P3. And then the pace was a lot faster after the safety car because you could save more energy, and without that front wing the pace was not that good anymore. In the end I think we maximized our race. We're unlucky losing the front wing, but still lucky to have finished in P4. And like I said, now it's the full focus on the last 2 races.
Formula E has this history of evolving. You have a extensive background in racing. What do you think of this Peloton-style racing, especially in a track like Portland, where it's very much a big influence on the outcome?
Well, the race here was similar to last year, very chaotic, a lot of Peloton-style racing, and it just creates a lot of incidents where it feels like, the driver cannot really react anymore if there's a concertina effect and everyone's bunching up in front, and you cannot predict, and therefore we saw a lot of incidents and people losing their front wings, which as a driver is a shame, because there goes a lot of work into those weekends. You are just a passenger. So I think no one of us really wants that, because you want to have clean races. There will always be incidents, but in those kind of races, the risk rate is just super high.
Mitch Evans, good to see you. I know you in the press conference you saying you were pretty upset just because the way yesterday went. Is the anger something that could sort of fuel a drive to get a championship?
I don't know. It probably depends on the person. It's always better, I think, to be calm and composed. So, I normally get over things relatively quick, but that one's really sit badly with me. So, there's still a bit of frustration today.
Can understand the frustration. Qualifying didn't exactly go well, but you still work your way to the front. What was it in qualifying that was missing compared to yesterday?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. Everything felt very similar, so just ultimately the pace wasn't quite there. It's strange, but some other cars were quicker than they were yesterday, and just didn't quite have the same pace, which was a bit weird. I was quick in practice, but just couldn't convert it, which was a bit strange.
And of course, next weekend more of that physical Formula E racing, tight, twisty. Is that a race type that you prefer compared to the Peloton style?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it feels like a long time since we were at a street track, but I just feel like it's more Formula E. It's a very tight track, so it's on the limit of being too tight there. But it's definitely a very enjoyable lap to get right.
And final question: since we know next year you're all going to Miami, home state Miami is a NASCAR track. We assume they're going to use the road course, but have you ever considered oval racing in your career?
Never, but never say never. No, I haven't, but it'll be fun though. It looks fun.
Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck next weekend at London.
Cool. Thanks. Cheers.
Once again, it looked like qualifying was going to be good, and then the race, just unfortunately bad luck. It's just one of those deals where now you're just thinking, okay, I sort of can't wait to leave Portland now.
No, not quite that severe. It's a shame because the team did a mega job this weekend. I felt like us as drivers were also doing a very good job, especially in qualifying. And these pack races, we nickname them, they're so volatile that you risk damage every single corner and every single lap. And if you're fortunate enough to come out the other side, you can have a result like I did in Shanghai. But I've been starting in the top 5 the last 4 races on the grid, and the 2 races this weekend I've been taken out of the race in instance that the other driver got a penalty for. So not much I think I could have done about my DNFs this weekend.
Now, of course, we're going to London. That kind of track, it's not the Peloton, but it is the beating, the banging sometimes because it's tight. Everyone's going to be aggressive. You got essentially 4 drivers with a real mathematical shot at the championship. How do you approach such a weekend where you're going to try to go out there and get the best results, but at the same time, you might be racing hard against somebody that has a championship in their mind?
Well, the second part of that, I don't want to say I don't care, but I kind of don't. I'm in it for myself, for ourselves as a team. So, if it means having to put a firm move on someone to get a win or a podium, that's for my benefit. So of course, you don't damage people. You don't want to go. You don't intentionally have an accident with people. You just race fair. You race hard, and you try and come out the other side of it. I mean, aside from that side of things, London won't be a race like we had here. Won't be races like we had in Shanghai. There will still be an element of energy saving, but we won't have the pack racing. And I think you're probably fair in your judgment that because of that, any overtake will be quite forceful. So you'll get a bit of banging for sure.
And this is your second season here at Formula E. Overall, do you prefer that style of where we're going to get in London compared to the pack style that we're seeing, like you said, in more places?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, I think I'm going to say I prefer the London races, the Mexico races, the Diriyah races. I think because it suits us and our car a bit more. You know, we're very good in qualifying. We've been very good since the start of season 9. When we have those races, we can quite, not comfortably, but more comfortably race at the front for longer. When we have the pack races, it's a little bit more. I think it's fair to say that especially the Porsche Jag cars have a bit of an advantage in these races. They would openly admit that themselves. So yeah, we have to have a perfect race on these kind of pack races. And I think in a race like London, a race like Diriyah and Mexico, we can really use our strength, which is qualifying, and then get a good result.
Now, we're asking every driver this question. Next year, you're all going to Miami Homestead. That's predominantly a NASCAR oval track. We assume they're going to make the road course configuration, but have you ever considered oval racing in your career?
Not yet, honestly. I think I've had a bit too much to focus on in my career in Europe and in getting to here in the World Championship Formula E, so it hasn't really come into my mindset yet. I think at some point, if the opportunity was ever there to race something like the Indy 500, I think of course you would consider it, but right now my full focus is here.
Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck in London.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hi, how was your weekend so far? How do you think the race went? Feelings, thoughts?
I mean, it was not the best weekend. Today was a better day with qualifying. We qualified in P9. And the race, was difficult. The pack was going quite fast. No one was saving energy, so I decided to drop to the back, save and try to come through. In the end, it would have been alright. We would have scored good points, but when the safety car came out, it became a flat-out race to the finish. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame in the end.
So next races are in London, very different style. We're probably going to move away from the peloton style of racing. Is your strategy going to be any different? Are you going to change anything, or are you just hoping for a very strong finish in London?
Yeah, hopefully just having a good qualifying, that will be super important, and then fighting at the front, scoring some points. I would like to finish off the season well.
Wonderful. And lastly, we are not going to be back in Portland next year. We are going to Florida. This is probably going to be a little bit of a road course, very different from the fast track here in Portland. So what are your thoughts about that? How are you feeling? What do you think the challenges are going to be going into next season?
First I need to secure a seat on this grid, so that will be my number one aim. And I've not even seen the track in Miami yet. I don't know what to expect. Obviously, it's a long way away, but these big tracks have the advantages and disadvantages. The advantages, that it's fun to drive, have very high-speed corners. But then again, qualifying is not as important as it would be, for example, in London. So each track has its pros and cons. But I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. And just the final question: what are you looking forward most to this London E-Prix and the last 2 races of the season?
Firstly having a good break for the next 10 days, and then in the end, just trying to maximize our results in London. It hasn't been the results of the year I've wanted at all. It's been difficult, so hopefully we can finish off the season well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So overall this weekend, who are some of your surprises, both good and bad, from the Portland E-Prix?
Well, I think obviously Nick Cassidy not scoring any points, that was a shock to us all. Other than that, I think Friens being on top of the podium 2 races in a row, that was really wonderful to see. To see him almost take the win today as well was very exciting, and for me that was quite surprising as well.
I gotta say, my surprise, it's gonna sound a little weird, Mitch Evans. Yeah, he started off great with the pole, but then the penalty, very controversial as some people would say, and then this race, qualifying, as he said, they don't know what happened. He had to work his way towards the front. How different the story would have been if he was able to get started up front again. I think that's my negative surprise. Positive surprise, Robert Friens, really hard to beat, I think. Overall, I gotta say, this race weekend, Portland E-Prix, most likely it's not gonna be on the calendar. We know there's one blank spot. Formula E has not done 2 races in the United States yet, but everyone's talking about Homestead Miami. When it comes to the 3 races here, Nick Cassidy won the first one, Felix da Costa second. What do you think is going to be the legacy people are going to remember the most from the Portland E-Prix?
I think the thing people are going to remember the most is that turn 10 and 11 with all of those slides and crashes and just a lot of general chaos this weekend. And I think, as far as contenders go and standing on top of the podium, I definitely think, honestly, Nick Cassidy is going to be the most memorable just because he has had such triumph here, but also such defeat. And that is something that is surprising to us all.
all the years since IndyCar has come back, where this is the second to last race, I know it's moved up, but we saw last year Alex Palou get that championship, the thrill of winning the championship. It's going to be interesting, depending on what happened in London. Are we going to be saying it was in Portland where the championship slipped out of his hands? I think that's going to be very interesting to say. And of course, we're going to be following Formula E and all the series in the grid ranking. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and of course, in the video description, we have links to everyone's channels. Nicole Fry, of course, at Fans in Focus Media. Be sure to check out all her social websites, everything, because one of the big things. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us here at Portland.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a weekend to remember, and I am sure we're going to miss Portland next year on the Formula E calendar.
We will definitely miss being here for Formula E, but of course we're going to be here later next month, August, for IndyCar. Subscribe, hit the bell icon. Big thank you to all our Patreon investors, everyone that buys us coffees for making this weekend possible. And be sure to tune in for Grid Encore, Grid Live Wrap-Up, Grid Tonight, and we do this all over again with Grid Live Pre-Race Saturday. For Nicole, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.